Hey guys, this is James Shanklin, and this is my WebQuest entitled Poetry in Motion. It's going to help students learn various forms and elements of poetry, iconic poets, influential poems, and through that, they'll develop critical thinking skills, expand their creativity by analyzing pieces of poetry, and learning about a poet's intent and composing their own original work. So let's go on to the introduction, where students are introduced to the goals of this lesson, and it helps teachers really engage the students on this lesson by describing some popular poets that they may have heard of, but also letting them know that the skills that they'll develop during this lesson, they'll be able to apply to their own personal writings, whether that's music or storytelling, and can also apply their critical thinking skills to dissecting some of their favorite songs and learning more about their own musical artists. So this page is really used to engage students in this assignment that goes beyond poetry. So on to the task page, which is very brief, and it just really clarifies what the goal of this assignment is, describes clearly what the teacher expects from the students, what the students should gain for themselves by the end of the lesson, and also a reminder to the teacher of what the focus of this lesson is. So on to the process page, which is pretty lengthy, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. Sorry. All right, there we go. So the teacher will, of course, give a lecture on the types and forms of poetry. They can also show a YouTube video that will help students get a visual idea of how to analyze a poem. Then they'll break into groups of three, discuss a specific poem, and they can use a poem taken from this website, but there's plenty of other websites online that the students can discover on their own to find a piece of poetry. Each group will analyze their poem and then fill out a sheet that will provide certain questions like author, the poetic form, the genre, and they'll turn that in to the teacher. And then each group will then write an original poem together, which can either be a response to the poem that they analyze or an original view of a current event or topic of their choosing. And you can provide these resources or any other ones that you find to help students discover how to write the type of poem that they want to compose. They would turn in their response sheets, like I said, and then they'll present their original poem to the class, and the class will have open discussion about each original poem. So constantly developing those critical thinking skills and learning more about elements and forms of poetry. So on to the evaluation page, which gives a simple grading rubric based mainly around the composition of the poem, the analysis, the poetic form used in their original poem, the use of poetic elements in the original poem, things that they've learned during their web quest, searching through different websites, and the group cooperation, which is something that the teacher should assess during monitoring and going over and seeing how each group is doing, making sure that they're staying on task. So finally, the conclusion. And the conclusion just basically states a lot of the stuff that I stated in this presentation, the expectations for students, goals of this lesson, skills that will be gained afterwards. And there's also an optional activity that I would suggest teachers consider, which is certain groups can be given the opportunity to revise their poems and post them to a poetry site like poetry.com that allows amateur writers to post their original work for the internet to see and comment on. I think that this could be a great confidence builder for a lot of the students in class. So that's something cool. And then finally, the teacher page gives the length of the lesson, resources used, a few suggestions for teachers who are unable to use the resources of a WebQuest, like going to the library and things like that, and also how the content standards, or what the content standards are and how they're being met. So that's pretty much my WebQuest, guys. Thanks for listening.